So my name is Jason. Just a quick background that's not even relevant, but it's funny. I landed last night at midnight. I woke up at 8, came here, did a podcast. Now I'm here and my flight's at 2 p.m. So I've never been in LA for this short in my life, and now we're here. So first of all, thank you guys very much for having me. Thank you for being here. We got some interesting things to talk about. You guys are probably seeing this and saying the same thing I said when I first saw it. What is that thing? How does it work? But before we dive into what is that thing and how does it work, I want to ask you guys a few basic questions. Raise your hand if you know anybody who has had or currently has cancer. That's more than half the room. Raise your hand if you know anybody who has had or currently has any form of heart disease, has had a heart attack. Even more people. Makes sense statistically, I'll explain in a second. Raise your hand if you know anybody with autism. Alrighty. Now, this could go one of two ways, but we're going to go one way. One of the ways is telling you all the statistics and what's going on, but I'm sure a lot of us know that, so we'll cover that a little bit. Another way is to explain what this technology is, but that's not going to do much because the core and the root issue over here is what I want you guys to walk away with while also understanding that solution. What is the solution? How does it work? And where have we gone wrong in the world? Now, the way I'll explain that is statistically speaking. Leading cause of death in America, in this country, is heart disease. Second leading cause of death in America is cancer. Third leading cause of death in America is the medical system. Medical errors. As a matter of fact, that's how my father died last year. Medical errors. The same system that's here to stop all of these problems is in some cases doing amazing things. In other cases, has a lack of certain knowledge in certain ways, and it's not necessarily intentional. It has to do with the system and how it was built. The fact is, we work today on something called reductionism. Reductionism is taking a picture that is whole, breaking it up to individual pixels and becoming an expert in each pixel. That's how the medical system works today, and there's nothing wrong with that. That only becomes a problem when you neglect holism. So people heard of the term holistic medicine, so on and so forth, and then they call it alternative medicine. It's not alternative. As a matter of fact, it's the very core of what our conventional medicine is built on today. For those of you who don't know, you cannot patent something that doesn't occur naturally in nature. So if you can't patent something like an apple that doesn't occur naturally in nature, you're going to have to take that thing, create a synthetic version, and then have a patent on it for 20 years, make billions and billions of dollars, and then eventually people can create generic pills and drugs. That's the system. It's not necessarily that people are bad, it's the system is broken. The only way to fix that is by understanding how is the system broken and where is the solution. So there's reductionism and there's holism. Reductionism taking the whole, breaking it to its pieces. Holism doing the same thing, but understanding how all pieces connect to each other. Now, when it comes to our healthcare system, it's not really a healthcare system anymore. It's more so sick. And the reason why I can say that, not as a doctor and not as a scientist, but just using logic, we all have a brain here in this room. If we were truly advancing medically the way that we've been told that we were, why are people sicker today than they were 50 years ago? It's a very simple question. We can come up with justifications and stories and all that, but let's make it black and white for a second. More people have cancer today than people had cancer 50 years ago. And by the way, more people had cancer 50 years ago than people that had cancer 100 years ago. And commonly what I hear is, no, they just didn't know how to diagnose it a few hundred years ago. No. Cancer showed up in the medical literature in the 1700s. They knew very well how to diagnose it. It didn't happen as much because we didn't have all the problems, the stressors, the chemicals that we have in the world today. Our food is no longer food. Our water is no longer water. Our thoughts are corrupted by stress. We're thinking negatively, we're speaking negatively, and therefore we are feeling negatively, and we're wondering, why am I sick? Why does almost 37% of Americans have or had or will have cancer at some point in their life. That's a crazy statistic. Why are 1 in 12 boys in California autistic? That's in this state. In the country, in the world, statistically, 1 in 32. It used to be 1 in 10,000, 1 in 20,000. Some people may say the food. Some people may say microplastics. Some people may say injections. Some people, it's everything. That's what I mean by holistically. Seeing things as the bigger picture, not isolating one thing as the only problem. But if we were to look at all the problems and try to isolate them, you're never going to end because there's too many of them to figure it out. So what do? We go to understand the world in a little bit of a different way. Today, we look at the world as fix the physical, and therefore you'll fix the problem. That is not the common denominator. The common denominator behind absolutely everything, and I want to preface with this. If I sat here and started talking about every single ailment, every single problem, we would be here for 100 years. We would all be dead by the time we're done, and we still wouldn't get to a fraction of the issue. Because that's not how I believe we should be speaking about it. We need to find the one thing, the one arrow that if you shoot and you hit the target solves most of the issues. And that arrow is not in the effect that we call a problem. It's in the cause. The cause is not what we think it is. And this all ties into the technology that we're going to speak about today called the light system. Today, we believe what we see. We have a physical body. I can touch you, I can smell you, I can hug you, I can taste you. That might be a little weird, but you know what I mean. And when it comes down to it, because we live in a physical world, we do everything according to physics. All right, we look at everything physically. We break things down physically. But let's drill this down for a second. Everything physical, whether it's your arm, whether it's a table, whether it's a leg, whether it's your head, your brain, it doesn't matter what it is made up of one thing. I'm going to show you what that one thing is and then prove the common denominator because I don't want you to believe a word that I say. I will prove it to you right here today in very simple terms without you having to be somebody that studied this for 30, 40, 50 years. Although if you have, you'll understand this even quicker. Everything boils down physically to something called atoms. But nobody bothers to ask, what is an atom? What is an atom actually made of on the atomic level? Because if we're saying everything is made up of this thing, we should probably understand what this thing truly is and its composition. That's going to give us a lot more insight into how to move forward. Well, factually speaking, an atom is not just physical. As a matter of fact, it's 0.000001% physical, and that's your subatomic particles. You guys have seen a sketch of an atom at least, and it looks more or less like that. And you have your proton, your electron, and these little subatomic particles moving. But what about the space that it's moving in? That's 99.9999% of it. Now, some people call it empty space. There's no such thing as empty space. There's just energy you can't see or measure. Call it what you want. That is the majority of the atom. And if you are made up of atoms, then you are actually, contrary to what you see, 0.00001% matter, even though you think you're 100% matter. You are 99.99999% energy. And that's a fact. That's not an opinion. It's the buildup of an atom. And yet we've been focusing on the physical expression of ailments and how to deal with them. And to a degree, we've succeeded at a cost. That cost is called a side effect. Side effects are not normal. They've become normal because of the system that we've adopted today. You take one drug because they have perfected how to get rid of acne, so we'll call that drug Accutane, and you take it, and the acne goes away. But then you get liver damage. That's a side effect. That's reductionism in action. Holism is saying, what can I do to be able to positively impact the imbalance or rebalance the imbalance and get to a point where I can actually fix that imbalance or rebalance the imbalance without causing an imbalance somewhere else. because that's just going to be a chain reaction that brings us to the world that we're living in today. Leading cause of death, heart disease. Second leading cause of death, cancer. Third leading cause of death, the medical system. All fact, all statistic, all published numbers. So if everything is made up of energy, we should probably be understanding how energy works in the body and deal with it from that common denominator. I'm going to simplify something for you. Health and disease. Anybody or a few people out loud, if I asked you to define health in one word without using energy, frequency, or vibration, what would you say? You could just say it out loud.
Freedom.
Balance. Perfect word. Freedom. Anybody else? Harmony. In tune. Pay attention. There's a common denominator between all of these words. They're all correct. The common denominator is balance. So before we get into the name of a disease and the terminology that's just going to confuse everybody, let's understand the basics. The basics are this. Health is energetic balance. Disease, otherwise known as dis-ease, is exactly what it sounds like. Energetic imbalance. We've forgotten that. And when you forget the fundamentals of what something is built on, you're able to be deceived, even unintentionally. You're able to be deceived because you can't think for yourself because you forgot the foundation of what everything's built on. Everything is factually built on energy. Energetic balance is health. Energetic imbalance is disease. Now again, let's look at a tree. When you have a tree with a poisonous seed, and that tree is growing with its trunk and then its branches and its leaves and so on and so forth, and you start seeing the branches are deformed. What we're doing in the world today is the equivalent of this. We neglect the fact that the seed is poisoned. We look at the roots, we look at the branches, we don't like that they're deformed, so we cut the branches off hoping that a new healthy one is going to regrow. That's just stupid. It doesn't make any sense. That is the effect, not the cause. The cause is the root. And if you want to deal with the problem, you have to deal with the problem from the root. Otherwise, you're going to keep cutting off branches, and new branches are going to keep growing, and they're still going to be deformed, albeit look a little different. That translates to when you do whatever it may be, any form of more conventional therapy, and I'm not against Western medicine, by the way. Western medicine saved my life. I'm against the proportions that we're doing it in. There is a time for antibiotics. There is a time to nuke the body when you have to nuke the body. Don't let that be the first thing you do. There's a lot of other things you could do before then, because when you nuke the body, you then end up having other things that happen inadvertently. And then we ask why. Well, it's because we forgot this knowledge, and it's time to remember this knowledge. So again, energetic imbalance is a root cause. And if we don't deal with it from the root cause, which is in the word energy, then we're going to have a problem. Because if, God forbid, you have cancer, which many Americans do, by the way, and you're going to go and do chemo first. Well, the chemo may get rid of the cancer, but what do you think that radiation just did to your body? And so many times when people do protocols like that, they still have their Frappuccino from Starbucks and their burger from McDonald's. It's like, what do you guys, what is even going on? It doesn't make any sense. None of it makes sense. So how do we solve this issue from the root cause? And now what you saw, and what I first saw when I saw this technology, will probably make a little bit more sense when you deal with it from the perspective of energy. What is energy? It's expressed in multiple different ways. It's expressed in light. It's expressed in sound. It's expressed in speech, in thought. Things you can hear, things you can see, things you can smell, and things outside of that spectrum as well. Everything in existence is made up of energy. When it comes to the light system specifically, it's built on everything that I just shared. It's built on the, not just premise, but the absolute fact that energy, number one, can't be created or destroyed, and energy is that seed. And when we can rebalance the energy in the body, think of cancer. Most people look at cancer and they say, cancer is bad, we need to kill it. Now that may sound normal, but that's not true. The cancer is not the problem in your body. The environment is the problem in your body that allowed the cancer to grow in the first place. So you can go and nuke your body all you want and get rid of the tumor. By the way, fun fact, tumors are not a bad thing. Tumors are the reason why you are alive for longer before the cancer takes over and kills you. Because what is a tumor? We've been taught it was bad. It's not. A tumor forms to encapsulate the very problem. And what do we do because we forget that? We go and do a biopsy. What do you think happens when you cut open the very thing that encapsulated something to stop the spread? Well, if it's cancer, you're going to have a very big problem. I'm just showing you the inconsistencies from a logical standpoint in the world that we're living in right now. Now, again, when it comes down to it, it's all based on energy. It's based on the environment of your body. Cancer cannot live in a more alkaline or optimal pH. Every cancer patient is acidic in their pH. Cancer cannot live when you have increased cellular charge or increased mitochondrial function in your cells. Cancer cannot survive, grow, or flourish or thrive in a place where you have higher oxygen levels in your body consistently. But you know what cancer loves? It loves low oxygen. As a matter of fact, there was a guy named Dr. Otto Warburg. He won the Nobel Prize about 100 and something years ago for proving the following. When you decrease oxygen by 35% in a single cell for 48 hours, that cell becomes cancerous. That means that oxygen deprivation can lead to an environment where cancer can flourish. So we have oxygen, we have pH levels, we have cellular charge. These are just some of many. If we can just focus on how to increase those things, then you don't need to go to war with the cancer anymore. The cancer will dissolve. It can't survive in that environment. And that's where we've got it wrong all along. We're focusing on the disease and trying to fight the disease with things that will create an even worse environment for more diseases to come. Instead of focusing on shifting the environment in such a way where the disease cannot exist in the first place, you starve the cancer of what it needs. It needs low oxygen, it needs acidity, and it needs low cellular charge. It cannot thrive in the opposite of any one of those things. The reason why I like the light system, and I'll explain how it works in a moment, is not because it's the best thing in the entire world. There are amazing technologies out there that do incredible things. They all work differently. For example, Rife-oriented technology is a type of technology that you can use to target specific frequencies. It's more one-on-one with specificity and laser focused. There are other technologies that use red light. There are other technologies like all the way to cold plunges and infrared saunas and so on and so forth. But most of the technologies out there, not all, but most, deal with a person one-on-one. We have about 8 billion people in this world. Unfortunately, most of them are sick. And what better way to deal with something that not only makes things effortless, which I think is a big key, because when you have motivation and discipline to do something, how long is that really going to last? You all know it. You set your New Year resolution, and then you fail after 1 month. And it's not because your goal wasn't good. It's because your system wasn't created to make that goal be achieved for a long term. If we focus on motivation and discipline only, you're going to have bad days where your motivation and discipline fails you. And if we're dealing with people only one-on-one, how long will that take to actually help everybody that needs help? The reason why I like the technology, and I personally use it every day, that's why I'm speaking here, is because, number one, it's effortless. You don't have to do anything. And that's the biggest thing for me, because I'm always doing something. And if I had to take an hour or 2 or 3 out of my day to go and do something, it becomes a little difficult. It becomes difficult because now I have to put effort into doing something. And how long is that really going to last? Because life happens. Things happen. The way that the light system works is in the name, light. Light is a synonym for energy. Light is the future of medicine, by the way, and we're starting to see that. 10, 15 years ago, if I was on this stage saying, hey guys, sit in front of this, red light panel. It's going to help you with inflammation. Most people would look at you like there's something wrong with you. Really? They would look at you and be, what the hell is this guy talking? It doesn't even make sense. Red light, it's going to stop my inflammation. Today, it's been more accepted. Why? Not because red light changed, not because light as a medicine changed, but because our awareness expanded on how things work. Because we're going closer to understanding things from the root cause, which is energy, as opposed to what we think the problem is, which is physical. And that's just not what it is. Light is broken up into multiple different aspects because it's energy. Things like wavelengths, or the visible spectrum of light, red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet. Things like encoded affirmations, by the way, is a pretty big piece of it, and we'll cover that in a moment. Ultimately, what you're going to see and what I'm going to explain with this technology is not something that nobody's ever done before, nobody's ever thought of before. It's built on things that have been around for thousands and thousands of years. It's just now taking the current technology that we have, number one, making it look beautiful at the same time, because sometimes you have this amazing technology, but it's like ugly in the house. So now you have something that's beautiful. You have something that works on a record of history that's been around for a very long time, which I'll explain. And it's simply the combination of all of this being put together that makes it the specialty that it is, if I can call it that. So Dr. Masaru Emoto, positive words and affirmations. If I told you, talk to your water and you're going to impact it, 20 years ago, you would think I'm insane. Today, some people still think I'm insane when I say that, and yet there are studies to back it up. Raise your hand if you know Dr. Masaru Emoto or heard of the water experiment. About 40% of the room, so I'll cover it quickly. This guy, Dr. Masaru Emoto, in the 90s was a Japanese businessman. Turned scientist. He had a hypothesis, and his question was, is it possible for my words, my thoughts, my emotions, my beliefs to impact my environment around me? And everybody's like, what the hell are you talking about? No, you can't do that. You need to touch something to impact it. Especially in the 90s, we were even more archaic when it comes to physical versus energetic, collectively speaking. So he said, okay, you guys may be right, you may be wrong, let's put it to the test. He took 2 glasses of water, and I'm just simplifying it. This was done in a lab and petri dishes and so on and so forth, but we'll make it simple. He took 2 glasses of water, same water, consistent across the board. To one glass, he said, I hate you, you're ugly, all the negative things in the world, cursing at it. And to the other glass, he did the opposite. And he said, I love you, thank you, you're beautiful, and so on and so forth. And then he took that water and flash froze it. Why water? Because water has a molecular formation to it. And he wanted to see if on a repetitive basis, he could, through just his words and even just his thoughts without speaking it out loud, because it's still an energy, just one you can't hear. You can measure it with an EKG, you know it exists when you're thinking. He wanted to see if repetitively positive words would create a different molecular formation than negative words over and over and over in the water. And lo and behold, what he found was this: I love you, and everything positive always gave him very symmetrical snowflake structures. And this is a fact. You could try it at home, by the way. The negative one was a little bit different, as you can see. It was very distorted. It wasn't coherent. There were a lot of problems with it. He repeated this with water over and over and over again. He repeated this with plants, by the way, and a lot of people have done that with plants to see how it will impact plants. Just speaking. Everybody's like, what are you talking to a tree for? I don't know, maybe because there's an energetic connection going on. And there have been studies to prove it. It's also logical when you understand the energetic world and how things work fundamentally. So ultimately, why is this important? This is important because we are made up of over 70% water. And by the way, if you read between the lines, when you think negatively, when you curse somebody because they did something bad to you, what do you think is really going on with this knowledge? You're hurting yourself. Why are you hurting yourself? You may say it's just distorted water, who cares? Well, newsflash, the water in your body is what energy and electricity travel through. And when that water is distorted, think of it like a highway or a hose that has a kink in it. The energy gets stuck. You know what that's called? A dis-ease or a disease. The key over here, one of the keys, is how can we restructure the water in our bodies to create coherent and flawless highways and hoses of energy, or water, I should say, almost like pipes, for energy and electricity to flow without becoming stagnant. When things get stagnant and stuck, you have a dis-ease of energy, flow, and light. When things are in flow and consistent and harmonious or balanced, you have the exact opposite, which is called health. Words and affirmations, when you're looking at the technology, and I don't remember the booth number, but you can't miss it when you walk in. It's going to be generally on your left, right in the corner with a big booth. You're going to see pyramids, you're going to see cubes, you're going to see chairs, you're going to see really cool looking things that you'll just gravitate to naturally for a reason. And the reason why you look at it is not just because it looks nice, it's because of what it makes you feel that you're not even aware of. So I'm explaining that science to you right now. What's scrolling on those screens are a specific set with changes that you as the end user have the ability to shift by entering your own intentionality into the program. It is scrolling encoded and targeted affirmations. Affirmations that do the same thing like they do in this study, where when you feel a certain way, or even, it's going to sound funny, but it's true, you take the word love and you put it on your bottle, it will restructure the water in that bottle. Well, your body is the bottle, and the technology is the one imposing, in this case, the good energy, the good frequencies on it. And I'm speaking like a lay person on purpose because I am a lay person. I want to be able to relate to make it easy to understand. So what you're looking at on the screen are positive words and affirmations with a subset of 4 different what's called linguistics, all focused on different aspects, targeting different things. And if that's not enough for you, there is a function on the technology that allows you to enter your own intentionality. Why do I say it becomes effortless? Very simple. Because instead of you sitting there doing your mantras for 15 minutes every single day, if that's what you do, instead of you covering your water bottle and changing that because those words will become stagnant over time if you just keep that over and over again, you now not only have something that does it for you in the background in the room that you're in, whether it's your office, your bedroom, so on and so forth, but on top of that, you also have movement. And movement takes still energy and moves it to create the opposite of dis-ease. In addition to that, you also have color. Color is exactly what it sounds like. The term for it is polychromatic light therapy. So we all know about red light therapy, but red light is just a piece of the visible spectrum. What about orange? What about yellow? What about green, blue, indigo, violet? People have got stuck on red, and that's going to expand, and it's already started expanding. But red is a piece of the spectrum. Red will help with inflammation because that is the energy center in your body that it will help rebalance. But yellow will help with your digestive system. Green will help with your heart and your lungs. Blue will help with your thyroid. Orange will help with your reproductive organs. And by the way, this isn't just light, also food. Just a cool fun fact on the side. Look at the color of food, real food, not food that we make, food that grows from the ground. Their colors, not only their shapes. I know many people have heard their shapes also show what they're good for, which is true, but their colors show what they're good for because color is a form of light therapy. It's a medicine. Food is your medicine, color is your guide. And if color is your guide in food, color has significance here. Red light, orange light, yellow light, green light, blue light, indigo light, violet light. You have 64 different wavelengths to choose from within the technology, not just the 7 base ones that we know of. There's also something called photonic collision. Photonic collision is the collision of photons. As photons collide, you create a charge in the environment, almost like if I were to take a glass and connect an electrode to it that keeps the glass at 100 degrees Fahrenheit at any given time. If I were to take cold water and pour it in that glass, obviously, the water will heat up until it meets the environment of the 100 degrees Fahrenheit. Well, when you think about it like that, the room that you're in with the technology is your container. It's the electrode. You are coming into it as the water. And that's how it works. I'm giving you the visualization to use your environment for you to synchronize with. The key is you want to synchronize with a positive environment because you synchronize with the environment that you're in. And by the way, we know that because women, by the way, do what together when they spend time? They sync their menstrual cycles. It's not contagious, is it? Unless it's news to me, I don't think it's contagious. You're syncing with a synced expression at the same time, generally because you're in the same environment, in the same dorm room, in the same office, in the same house, whatever it may be. Now, when it comes to collision specifically, that collision of photons, because this is a technology that uses light specifically, will create that charge to increase the cellular millivoltage within each of your cells, therefore increasing mitochondrial function. And the science by Dr. Glenn Ryan himself, who I hope at some point will actually come and start speaking. I know he wanted to speak on his findings as well, but I came instead. You're talking Harvard, Stanford scientist, doctor. A man that's done his own studies on this technology, and what he found, very simply put, through something called an EIS method, an electroimpedance spectroscopy method. That's the formal term for it. He's able to measure the impedance of energy and electricity in a sample of cheek cells. That's how he'll test it, or buccal cells. And he's done it on me, he's done it on many people. What he found was, specifically, this specific one was done with the chair system, so make sure to go and try the chair system specifically after this talk today or at some point today, tomorrow, whatever it may be. He found that cellular electrical conductivity increased by 80% in just 1 hour. Now the question is, how long does it last? There are answers for that, but we want a larger sample size to answer it properly. And that should be coming out over the next, hopefully, 20 to 30 days. There's going to be big interviews about it, podcasts about it, and whatnot. Tons of studies coming out. But I wanted to show you the main one that excites me the most, because this is how I feel. When I literally sit there, thank God I'm not dealing with any serious ailments or whatever it is. But when I sit there, I work a lot. I'm on planes a lot. I'm traveling 24/7, and it's burnout. It really is. When I sleep around this technology, it's the opposite of burnout. It turns me into like Superman for a period of time, and then I go back into burnout. And then I do it all over again. The key is to prevent that in the first place. So, in a few sentences to bring this as a whole, I want you guys to read some of that in terms of the testimonials. You can share or look at all the testimonials on the website. There are tons and tons and tons of real testimonials, not actors, but real testimonials. People talking about stage 4 prostate cancer, stage 3 breast cancer. You can read it for yourself. You can take pictures of it. And these are just 2 of hundreds, if not thousands, that you can read for yourself and see for yourself, because the people actually leave their videos organically on the website. With that, I want to leave you guys with one thought. This technology is in wellness centers around the world. That's what unified healing is. We have a few hundred wellness centers in about 50 countries around the world, the majority in the United States. So there are 2 options here. Number 1, try it for yourself. You can always go to a wellness center, and there are many in California, by the way, for you to experience. And if you want to bring it home, you can do that as well. The easiest way to bring a lower version or a less strong but still significant form of this technology is what I'm wearing right now. These look like crystals. They are crystals, but they went through a process. They went through a process that literally embeds specific frequencies and holds a specific charge. There are studies coming out with these too to show you guys the empirical evidence behind them. But I wear this for a reason, because they help with EMF protection. That's key, especially when you're going through airports all the time. So keep that in mind. All of this is at the booth. Go check it out. Ask your questions. This is the light system. I like to call it medicinal art because it's sexy and it works. Thank you very much.